Happy New Year, Evan. Let's kiss.
On January 22nd or whenever this comes out.
Yeah. Whenever,
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Biden, President Biden.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations
At the time
in
of
advance.
this, the inauguration will have just happened.
Uh,
At the time of this recording, a coup just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little attempted
A
insurrection.
little insurrection.
You know.
Yeah. Terrifying. Truly. A sad day.
Yeah.
Um.
The dark day in American history. There
But-
seems to be a lot of those.
Well, hold on a second. I want to say something.
Dude, it's so bullshit how America works nowadays
Mhm.
because it'll be a normal like Wednesday for you. You just get home from work and you're like tired. You fall asleep and you wake up and all of a sudden you turn on the news and a dark day in American history.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go on Twitter and you just see like hashtag January 6th,
Yeah.
a day that will live in infamy.
I
You're
was
like,
getting
what happened now?
I was getting text messages. I was at work. I work from home. But I was sitting at my computer and I was getting like text messages from everybody like, Treyton, what is going on at the Capitol? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're
You
like,
know
turn on the
everything.
news. But here's something I want to talk about, right? So the
Hold up, real quick.
of course.
Real quick. This is so. At the time of this recording, it was when we first started putting out the podcast.
Mhm.
Podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's on my YouTube. I put together a little promo clip, put it out there. So hopefully we have a couple people listening now.
Yeah.
So we're actually speaking now as if we're speaking to an audience, even though the first 3 we recorded,
Yeah.
we were speaking to an audience still. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to Dark Moon Hollow
Yes.
for the theme music intro. That's Drinking Again by
Which
them.
is a fabulous song.
Fabulous
Yeah,
song.
Thank you guys.
We'll get into. We're going to talk about just kind of Kentucky music
Love that.
in general.
But,
In a
but
minute.
before that,
And also a shout out to Emily DeBold for the podcast logo artwork.
yeah,
Looks
amazing.
great. It's fun to see ourselves cartoons.
It is. It's very to see us in our truest forms.
Yeah, it makes you understand how you are perceived.
Yeah, with one of my eyes being bigger than the other.
Yeah.
But here's something I want to say. So the last time the United States Capitol was breached was
The War of 1812.
Yeah, in 1814 specifically.
Oh.
You
You mean the War of 1812 wasn't just that one year?
It wasn't. It was the War of 1814 in 1814.
The War of 1812 through 1814.
Yeah, but like think about the historical perspective with which like we see the sort of like enemies of the American state, right? Like we see, the British in their red coats or like the Confederates in their gray fatigues astride their horses, or like the Nazis in their stormtrooper uniforms.
Yeah.
And if you look at pictures of these fuckers who stormed the Capitol, they are the biggest doofus morons I've ever seen. Like, they look like fucking goobers, man.
They do. They look like Ed, and Eddie characters run amok.
The guy with the fucking Viking hat. Like, obviously, there's such a serious threat to democracy and our institutions.
It's so of the current age. I guess 2021.
Yeah.
2021 is not off to any better of a start than 2020 was.
No.
Quicker, like what? I don't know how fast World War III happened in 2020, in January of that, and then Kobe died on top of that.
Yeah.
But this year, we not even a week in, we've already had an attempted insurrection.
Yeah.
And yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say.
We're talking about like
the-
how these guys look like fucking dweebs.
They look like
Dweebuses.
they look like dweebs.
Yeah, like
Yes.
there's and far be it, you don't judge people's appearance, things they can't change, right? But I'm talking about like these people, what they were wearing to attack the United States Capitol.
Yeah, it was like jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It was like all that stuff they got you can get at Walmart.
Yeah.
I don't know where you can get one of those buffalo horn
The
hats.
yak hat.
Oh, here's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It's so strange because you look at those pictures and just from how my mind works, it sees things as funny.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me, this dude with horns on and a face painted sitting where Nancy Pelosi sits.
Yeah.
That's hilarious to me, even though it's like that's where democracy happens.
Well, and part of the it's like this sort of like I was a political science minor in college. For those of you in our audience, I don't know if I've said that on the show yet.
I thought you were a major.
I was a major for a while, but I dropped it down to a minor. I was like 6 credit hours away from being a major. I should have finished the major. I should have finised it, honestly.
Dude, 6 credit hours? That's 2 classes.
I know. I should have finished. I could finish it. I mean, I could get another degree. Anyway, but what I was saying is, part of the reason that the far right in this country, these fascists are so effective in their recruitment is like they monetize and bank on like this ridiculousness, like their meme culture and like the ability to like play off things as jokes. Like that's why they can recruit people. Like it's part of their appeal to these people.
Memes have really been weaponized in the past decade.
Oh yeah. And it's because of like, 4chan and Twitter and Facebook, like all these ways that like misinformation and fucking hatred and malintention spread.
I think it's exactly what everybody's been saying about Trump and like him posting on Twitter and just this mob mentality. It's everything everybody's been saying since 2016, and it just took 4 years to boil up until that happened.
Well, 4 years and a loss. Like, let's not.
And a loss, yeah.
Trump's wounded pride was a huge part of the fucking dealio for these motherfuckers. Like, absent Trump's loss, this would have been put off another 4 years.
It was funny to see people just separating themselves from Trump, just like as it happened, like 5 or 6 people had resigned already. That must have been fucking scary for those senators and shit. Imagine you are 88 years old, the average age of a U.S. congressman, and the place is being stormed by your supporters. Yeah. And let me tell you something. Do you think the thought ever crossed like fucking Tom Cotton and Mitch McConnell and fucking Lindsey Graham? You ever think the thought like fucking pushed through their brain of like, well, if they get to us, like they're not gonna hang us. They're not gonna. We'll be okay. Mitch McConnell just recoiled into his shell.
Yeah.
Stayed there for the entire
They had to carry
event.
his shell out of the Senate chamber.
Yeah.
And
Definitely wild times.
it was. And I look forward to seeing all of these people prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm pretty patriotic. Like, obviously, you shouldn't look at America with rose-colored glasses on.
Yes,
but like the lofty ideals of democracy and freedom and
well, you can
fairness of the law.
You can be be proud to be an American while still acknowledging the history of everything that's gone on.
Yeah, we don't have to act. We don't have to do the 2nd grade activity workshop of like the fucking happy slaves.
Yeah, there's nothing. Jesus Christ,
it's true. That's how they instruct kids in this country. It's absurd that we, and far be it from me as a white guy living in 2021 to fucking talk about how slavery should be represented in history classes, but the people who should be deciding that are people of color in this country.
Yeah, you can still recognize all that history, and you can get new perspectives while at the same time being, a fan of the ideals of democracy and freedom and independence and all the DBQ questions that you answer when you write essays about like the Constitution and shit. Like all the values. You can be a fan of all the Christian values and Catholic values and not support the direct history of the church.
I guess and that's like that's the reckoning I think the country is having right now with itself, is like America's been really like sort of nationalistic for a long time and like patriotic to a fault, like saying that America has been the sort of idyllic city on the hill mentality that a lot of people have about this country.
There's nothing wrong with being patriotic, but there's a difference to how Rome did patriotism. Rome was like, we are the empire,
Right.
and the British did the same and stuff. And then I don't think anyone's more patriotic than you go over to Canada or someone.
Yeah, they love their country.
Yeah, Canada or just Ireland. They're very, very patriotic.
Mhm.
You know, there's nothing wrong with a little patriotism.
Yeah, but it's like the dream of what the country should be, not glorifying what it was and is.
Yes, and I also think that just gets down to basic education levels and people not understanding.
We'll do an education
all
episode at some point and talk about like the disparities in like the education systems in your Kentucky community and my Kentucky community, because I think that would be a fascinating topic of conversation.
Yes, white people talking race relations.
Yeah,
welcome
we are
to Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't do the welcome. Welcome to Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
Welcome to Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
Yeah, I am your stinky skunk, Treyton Blackburn,
and I am your Papa Bear, Evan Pride.
Yes, of course. We've got a theme song.
Yes, we have a wonderful theme song.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's exactly the sound we were looking for.
Yeah.
We wanted to get a Kentucky themed,
Mm-hmm.
or I guess a Kentucky, a local band
Mm-hmm.
to be our music. And we both knew a couple
And we did.
of people. We were going through the ringer. Most people I know from Louisville who make music are it kind of sounds kind of new agey.
Mhm.
It's not as and it sounds good. I'm a fan of I'm a fan of all my friends, and
Well, there are some of my friends.
most of them.
I'm a fan
most
of.
I have a couple buddies that make some shit music, but most of the people they make good music, and it's just very of the times. I feel like regional music isn't a big of a thing because of the internet.
Right. Well, and sorry to cut you off, but like something that I discovered in my research, and I bet you felt the same way, is just like the diversity of music being made in Kentucky. Like it's really all over the place in terms of like genre and style and sound.
Honestly, so my favorite aspect, Kentucky's most well known for probably bluegrass, folk,
of course, yeah.
And that's what we wanted to go with. I am such a big fan of rock and heavy metal and hard rock and stuff. I'm also a big fan of hip hop, but in it actually going through all my friends that make music, a lot of them make hip hop.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. So
not so much where I come from, and I bet you can guess why.
Well, the bands that you sent me, they were almost very techno-y.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's a lot of there's a
it's like techno R&B, that lo-fi.
Yeah.
Beats
well, and you gotta
stuff.
A lot of this, because bluegrass and the blues have very similar musical origins. Like, I don't know the full detail, but I've read a couple of things talking about like the relationship between the traditional blues, probably, the introduction of African instruments into the United States through the slave trade. Honestly, is probably the shared root. If I were guessing, I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, probably.
But what I think is interesting about music that comes from my region is a lot of it is a sort of natural evolution out of that folk, bluegrass, ballad genre of music. So like one of my favorite bands, I went to high school with a lot of the guys. Actually, funny story, my wife, her first boyfriend was the lead singer of a band called Mirrored Image. I can't think of his name at the time and probably shouldn't say it on the air anyway.
You sent me their stuff. We looked at them. They sounded very good.
They're a great band. I'm very proud of Mirrored Image, but my wife, when she was in kindergarten, was boyfriend girlfriend with the lead singer of that band.
Wow.
So
her kindergarten ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. But if you notice about their music that I think is really cool and interesting is they always Mirrored Image. If you guys please go check out Mirrored Image on YouTube, they're great. They're from Pike County. They're very talented people. But one thing that I think is super interesting about their songs is they all kind of take on a ballad sort of format. Like there's songs that they're telling like narratives through,
Yes.
which is super interesting. Not all of their songs, of course, but they do like, and that's a very bluegrass notion. Like so many bluegrass songs
tell a story.
Yeah, like Pretty Polly, which is arguably one of the most famous bluegrass songs ever.
What's the Dooley Dooley?
Yeah, Dooley.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I love songs that tell stories. Yeah. I'm a big fan of, I guess in that same way, the narrative. I guess that's what folk is.
Yeah.
Yeah, folk is kind of very narrative driven. I guess the more broader picture of folk you have nowadays, you have like Taylor Swift, but Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. So I'm a big fan of the rock and roll bluegrass. So
yeah,
Southern rock, pretty much.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite bands right now from that, Chris Stapleton. He's a great one.
He's amazing.
He's from Lexington, I believe.
He's. I can't remember where exactly he's from, but Chris Stapleton is very well beloved in my community.
Yes, he's great. I think he spends a lot of time in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But
Tyler Childers.
Tyler Childers,
who's amazing.
I love Cage the Elephant. They're my favorite band.
I don't know who that is.
Currently, right now, you've heard "Ain't No Rest for the Wicked."
Yeah.
But they have their first album. They're from Owensboro.
Oh, really?
Originally, I believe. Oh, am I getting that right? They're from no. They're from WKU. Where's WKU? Bowling Green.
That's great. I've never been. I don't know. Yes, I've been to Bowling Green. I lied to you.
Yes, they're from Bowling Green. And they are very good. They have their first album was very hard rock. It was very narrative driven. Big fan. It's just one of those rockin' bands. Just got great guitar solos. And then with their every album, they just got more exploratory and more going outside and started adding keyboards and stuff. And now they're just like they're recognizable as the same band, but they're just so much bigger and just artistically, I appreciate them so much. And I've seen them live twice.
Yeah.
They're great.
Well, and there's like
great live performers.
So like you like a lot of like rock, and I am very drawn to a more folksy sound. Like I really like acoustic music. I really like bluegrass music. I grew up a girl I was friends with in high school. Her stepdad was a pretty famous bluegrass artist named David Adkins.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's very well known in bluegrass circles. He's super talented. But his sort of music has always been really, really good to me. And another band I really like is Parsons Field. I don't know where they're from, but I saw them live in Louisville when I was in college, and it was really weird because we went. There was a group of six of us that went, and literally the six of us were the only people in the audience watching Parsons Field. It was wild. And they were just playing for us, which was, I mean, it was. Have you ever been to like a little like tiny bar concert like that?
Yeah. I saw a friend of mine. Well, they weren't really friends, but some kids I knew. They were in a band called Pocket Change. That was short lived, but they made some good music. It was kind of like smooth, jazz, rocky kind of stuff. Yeah.
Another artist I really like regionally is like Tabor Mullins, Tabor for you listeners if you want to listen to Tabor. He does a lot of like synthy, almost like video game kind of music.
I listen to his stuff, yeah.
Tabor is very good. I've never met Tabor, but when I worked at the Breaks, my boss was really good friends with Tabor, so.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess we're just shouting out Kentucky artists right now.
Let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
Let's promote people who need to be promoted on our show.
Yeah, my buddy Landis has a pop punk band called Lost Henry. They're pretty good. They're out of NKU. Yeah, pop punk. I mean, I love Landis and all those guys. Make great music. pop punk, not my favorite genre though.
Sure,
It's like that Blink 182. All the
Oh,
small things. It's just from, it's from that pocket of the 90s, 2000s where music and movies just got very annoying to me from those
Sure.
eras. But at the same time, some of my favorite bands are from that era, like Green Day and shit.
Sure, yeah.
So like, but I just pop punk. But I'm also not a huge fan of. I guess pop punk kind of evolved into more of that emo rock stuff, like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, which I like some of their stuff, but overall it's a little too emo for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Very, very serious.
Yeah.
And I love you, or something like that.
Yeah, that's music for my wife circa 2000, 2009. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I was into that shit around 2011.
Oh my
or some
god,
shit.
dude. Tara, listen, let me tell you something about middle school Tara. Oh, it's so embarrassing. My wife.
We were all so embarrassing in middle
Oh.
school. Anybody who knew me in middle school,
Please forget.
I was just a cartoon character. I just always wore this hat that stunk like cheese and foot, and I had this long
Wait, what kind of a hat? Like a ball cap?
It was a what are they called? Bean hat. What are they called? Beanies?
A beanie?
Yeah, it was a beanie.
Oh, Evan, no.
It was a beanie, and it was gray, and it had skulls on it with black fire.
Oh.
And I wore it with long flowing hair.
Oh.
And I had, man, this is how desperate and how much of a loser I was back then. I had a YouTube channel and a podcast.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, I was doing this. I was watching a lot of online stuff like Achievement Hunter, Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
Back when Let's Plays were really starting to take off on the internet, like 2012, 13. The gold days of YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
And
back before the ads.
Yeah, back in the Gangnam Style era.
Yeah.
And so I made this channel called Out of Batteries. I'm sure it's still online somewhere. Of me just playing YouTube video games, and they weren't very good, but I got better at them.
Yeah.
But that was all I did. I just played video games, and I fucked around in class.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what my grades were. I slept through all my math classes. And woke up and did very well in the exams. I didn't learn a single thing in 8th grade science because I fucked around in the back of the class with my buddy Robbie, and we were like the two very, there's multiple class clowns, but there's only a couple kids who are like would call themselves class clowns and be proud of it, and that was very much us. We were just fucking riffing in the back of the classroom the entire time.
Yeah.
Sticking fucking clear chemicals in our mouths and and fucking spitting in the sink or whatever we were doing back
Here's
there.
the thing. When I was in school, I was like a teacher's pet who wanted to be the class clown. Is the perfect way to describe me.
That was me too. I was completely a little brown nosing kid. I was like, don't get mad at me, teach. Like, I knew the key was to make the teacher laugh because then you wouldn't get in trouble.
Right.
But I was never the kid who would like stand up and the teacher's yelling at him and the class finds it funny.
Yeah.
Because like this kid's very deceitful. I'm like, that was never me. I was like, I don't want to be yelled at. I just want I just want people to like me.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting. Like when you're like a gorpy sort of gawky, like goofy geeky kid,
people expect you to be weird and quiet, I feel like.
Yeah, and like you want to be liked so much that you'll do anything to not be like the weird quiet nerdy kid. Like you will people like drink this Coca-Cola and gummy worms and raw eggs. And you're like, okay.
Okay. I feel like
Okay.
that's also just being a young boy, though.
Yeah.
Do you do you find that you hung out with the kids that were weirder, and because you had to, just
Well, let me tell
weirder,
you.
more strange, more in your pocket of your fucked up humor? For me, just being young, just the fact that I played video games a lot, loved video games,
Mhm.
loved movies, like comic book movies and stuff like that, that immediately kind of puts you in this nerd pocket, and
Yeah.
then you kind of start hanging out with those kids,
Yeah.
and then you realize that like nerds can play sports and like still be cool and all these things.
Yeah.
So
It's that
but
transition when you go to high school. Because, like, when you're in middle school, like, I don't know if this is true for you, but for me, like, in middle school, we didn't really have a lot of extracurriculars to do that weren't sports. So, like, our cliques were very interest based. But, like, once I went to high school, I was a theater kid.
yeah,
Because we didn't have a theater program at my middle school.
yeah, I guess sports were the only, we didn't have like any clubs in
Right.
middle school. We did, but like there was maybe like a handful of kids that went to clubs.
Yeah.
I went to chess club like twice in first
Sure.
grade. Yeah, we had the 7th and 8th graders could do like musicals. Our musical and like theater program have since expanded at my middle school,
Yeah.
but so there was like a small pocket of kids who were musical kids,
Right.
but the rest were all sports and kids who didn't do
Yeah.
sports.
When I was in middle school, I think I ran with a crowd that I didn't really fit into. Like I was a very odd kid, and we didn't have like because like I went to a very small public school with like a lot of kids who were in poverty, so like there wasn't like the video game sort of that kind of geeky
Yeah.
subgroup.
Yeah.
And like the subgroups.
Our thing was that we were into technology that cost a lot of money.
Right, and we didn't have that.
Yeah.
So like the geeky kids and the emo kids became one clique, which was very odd. So it was like me and then like a bunch of girls like wearing all black with like dark eyeshadow. that was my and like me in like a loud bright yellow hoodie with my like first pair of glasses and braces.
I went through a phase, which I don't know if you were like this, where at a certain age, I just kind of realized I was like, okay, I'm weird enough, and I don't have anything like physically going for me. So like all I really have is my personality. So I'll just try to be as me as possible.
Yeah.
And so and that's why I was like, fuck it. I don't care. I'm wearing the skull hat. I'm growing my hair out. I'm wearing these weird Naruto shirts, and I'm wearing cargos and all these things. And
you were Naruto shirt kid.
Dude, I didn't give a fuck about how I looked. I went to Hot Topic, just bought everything there. I was $5 short of having a chain wallet. That was me when I was younger. And then eventually you go to high school and you're like, oh shit, I've dug a hole for myself. I've dug a significant hole for myself.
Yeah.
And now I'm stranded at this all guys Catholic school.
Yeah.
And so that's why you start doing theater.
I get
to
well.
meet girls.
Maya's,
and then you get addicted to the feeling of the dramatics of delivering a monologue.
interesting.
You get addicted to being an artist.
Is that what happened to you?
That's what happened to me.
So here, like, okay, so when I was in middle school, I never, and this is true, I never really had any interest in like expressing myself through like my clothing or anything. Like
I didn't either. I thought clothes were literally something you just wore to keep you warm and comfortable.
Yeah. And so like, you know, like you and your skull hat and your Naruto shirt, like I was not well dressed. For some reason, my mom never got clothes that fit me right. Like I was such a tiny kid. I bet it was hard to find clothes for me, especially on a budget.
I had a similar experience, except the other way around.
Yeah, but the clothes, like
Nothing
I was
fits
always
this kid.
swallowed by my clothes. Like I was always wearing these hoodies that were way too big for me, and like my hands were like up in the sleeves, and
Yeah.
I had big baggy blue jeans on. And I always had to pull my pants up, and It was hell. But anyway,
But that was also the style of the early 2000s.
yeah, I guess it was.
So everything, all the like cheap clothes and everything that people were giving away, stuff at like Walmart, Goodwill, and stuff. It's all everything on the rack is that style. It's
Yeah.
it was a very baggy era.
Well, and I also got a lot of like hand-me-down clothes, like from my cousins and stuff that I had to wear, and all of my
Yeah.
cousins are bigger than me. But I was like, I was always in these baggy clothes, and like my first pair of glasses, they were atrocious. They were like so boxy, and like I was a hideous child. I was hideous.
So my first pair of glasses, I got Nike athletic glasses.
I think mine were Nike athletic glasses.
I was in denial of having glasses. I was like, if I'm getting glasses, I'm getting something cool. I was on the football team at the time. I was like, give me the Nike glasses. That way people will know I play sports and there will be no misunderstanding of my status.
Oh God. You were a prize.
And then I went from that to getting glasses that you're wearing right now, which are kind of John Lennon, circular, Ozzy Osbourne, Harry Potter glasses. People called me Harry Potter for years. They were
People still call me Harry Potter, and I bear no resemblance at all.
Neither do I. It's literally, it was literally just the glasses. People were like, you look like Harry Potter. Anyone ever tell you that? You look like John Lennon. And I'm like, first of all, don't insult John Lennon.
You look like a fucking moron.
Yeah, you look like a blind person.
Yeah.
I was like, don't insult John Lennon's memory by comparing me to him.
So like when I got to high school, I was king of that castle, man. Like I could do no wrong in high school. I told off the principal and faced zero repercussions.
Yeah.
I did tell off the principal. My principal in high school. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry you have to find out the truth this way, but you're an idiot. You're a moron. Please don't listen to this. But God, if you are, get it together, man.
Is he still the principal?
Yes, he's still, and he sees me out, and like every time he sees me, he's like, well, look who it is. And I'm like, dude, I graduated so long ago. Move on. I'm like, dude, it's over.
I was a goody two shoes in high school.
I mean, the teachers adored me because I was a student and I was allowed to call out the bullshit of the administration of the school.
Did you ever do like student government?
We didn't have student government. No, we had what was called
in high school.
Yeah, we didn't have student government.
Okay.
We did have what was called the Student Advisory Board, which was a group of students selected by the faculty that would consult with the administration on budgetary decisions, like how money got allocated through the school.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So we had a student government, and they just like planned the prom. So your lack of a student government, the students actually had more of a say on budgets.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
So what we did is myself and my wife and a few other of our classmates who did community theater, we started the theater program at our high school through the Student Advisory Board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we found a faculty sponsor, and we used our Student Advisory Board to say, hey, we would like to have a theater program. We've got a sponsor. Is there anywhere in the budget we could find some money? And we did find, what essentially they told us is if we could do a show and raise some money, that they would match whatever we raised. And that the theater program, to my knowledge, is still going on.
What is the biggest program at your high school? Was it like
basketball?
Okay, basketball.
Yeah. I went to East Ridge High School, and it is a huge, I wouldn't say like huge basketball school, but it's very much, we had a former UK player was our coach for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, we had.
That's not necessarily a good thing.
No, he got removed. I can't remember. I don't know why he had to leave.
Oh, basketball, not football. I was thinking football.
Yeah, basketball.
That is a good thing.
Preston Lemaster, who played for UK, if you know that name, he was our basketball coach for like a year or two. Don't know why he left, but he was replaced by a short, squat little man who looked like Vladimir Putin named Randy McCoy.
Randy McCoy.
Yeah, he was gross. He looked like a toe. He was, and he was so mean and rude. Gosh, he was awful. He was a terrible man. He was so awful. He hated the theater program so much.
Everybody hates the theater program.
I mean, to be fair, we deserve to be picked on and bullied.
We do. And it's good for us. And that's really why we're doing theater, is because that's a room full of people who are afraid to be bullied. So they're hanging out together and
then we bully each other.
Yeah. And then we bully each other. But the key difference with theater people and normal people is theater people just bully each other behind each other's backs.
Yeah.
And then when they see each other in person, they're like, "Hey, oh my God."
Yeah.
And give them a hug and like, "Girl, you look great."
And like, here's the thing about theater people is you have two sort of classes of theater people. You have the theater people who like have drunken the Kool-Aid and made themselves feel self-important because the art form. Like, these are the people who like, they're like, okay, let's circle up and hold hands and let's share one thing about tonight's show that changed your life. We'll start with Emily. And then there's a second class of us who are the people in that circle going, fuck, what do I say? This really
what do I say that won't sound cheesy but won't make me sound like an asshole?
Yeah. And I think that's us. But we were in those circles and we were like, oh fuck, God, I don't know. I got to be out of the house for a little while.
I guess it has to be a little that cheesy because you are going, if you're acting, you're probably a sensitive person.
Sure.
Because just by nature, you have to go out on stage and it's a very vulnerable position to be in, and you're displaying emotions and whatever. So there's sensitive people, but just there's little things like everybody circles up and we're gonna pass the pulse, which is you just squeeze, and
you're squeezing hands.
Just feel the energy in the room, and I guess we've both done acting. It's weird that energy is a real thing.
It is.
But also, people just put it on this Mount Everest of importance.
Well, and here's the thing that
people get offended. I've never been a guy. I hold very few things sacred.
Okay.
And people just will hold. I'm okay with people holding the art form very sacredly, but it's like, hey, you don't step on the stage at this hour, and you're not supposed to cross this line.
Yeah.
And you don't go up those stairs. That's not where you're supposed to go. I always hated just like,
no,
that's not your prop. Don't pick it up. I'm like, but we're just hanging out. I won't break it.
Well, and here's the thing:
all those rules make sense, but
right.
I'm complaining.
What I feel, and I've said this to you as an art, like one of the things I believe is, if you're going to do theater, you've got to desanctify the theater if you want to have any start of progress. Because in my opinion, the moment that an actor steps into the space and like, this is the theater, we must treat it with respect, you're not going to get, like, how am I supposed to choreograph puppet sex?
Yeah.
If you're holding my space in reverence, like if we can't break down the wall of reverence to do the work, we're not gonna do anything. We might as well go home.
Yeah.
And it's why people won't play in the space, right? You've been in rooms like this.
People get very uptight and
they don't want to look foolish, and they want to be told they're wrong.
And it's also a thing where you come into the space and everybody like directors, they make it very clear at the start of rehearsal, they'll be like, this is a sacred space, this is a safe space to play and stuff, and hopefully most of the time they mean that or whatever. But the thing is, you're not worried about them judging you. You're worried about everybody else, and everybody else is like, oh yeah, this is a safe space to play. But also at the same time, when someone goes up to do their scene before you and they fucking suck or whatever, you are still judging them in your head.
Yeah.
You probably don't say it. And so you know that other people are having those same thoughts about you. They're just being polite enough to not say them. So you're still thinking, okay, I suck right now. There's things that need to be fixed. But also, most of the time, you're one of the few directors that will be like, hey, this earlier, that sucked. Like, it just wasn't funny. We either have to find a way to make that funny or cut it or something.
Yeah.
Or just this, I'm not getting it.
Yeah. Well, and I believe wholeheartedly in looking at, as a director, I don't value the sanctity of the theater space or the sanctity of the work. I believe in respecting the work, and I believe in respecting each other as collaborators. But the theater is not a magical place to me, right? Like, it doesn't.
We make the magic. The magic isn't here.
And like what, I try very hard to create a comfortable rehearsal room. Like,
yes,
one of the techniques that I kind of like is having, whenever I'm working a scene or whatever, is either having the other actors occupied doing something else or like not paying attention to what's happening. Like, to remove that feeling of I'm being watched, I'm performing for my fellow actors. Like, I want that, because I've never felt that as an actor. Like, I never feel, when I'm in a rehearsal room and you and I are doing a show together, unless you're in the scene with me, I don't even know that you're in the room. I am an actor who very much completely goes into my character, and it takes me a second to get out of it. And I'm not a method actor, but like,
you just get very in the zone.
Yeah, have you ever seen me? I'm sure you have. Have you ever seen me like telling a story or like playing a game or watching something?
Yeah,
I zone out.
Yeah.
And it takes me a second to get back to...
Yeah, it's very obvious that you're just doing your own thing. And I think that's admirable. That's the place that when you're... Have you seen Soul?
I've not.
Oh, it's so
I want to
good.
see it. I want to see it really bad.
They have a thing about it to where there's this place that artists go to when they're just so in the zone. They're doing it. They're feeling themselves. And they just kind of... It's like they phase out into another dimension, which is so true when... Just anybody, when you're writing something and you're like, this is really good, you just zone out, time and space float away, you're up there acting in the moment. That's the place that you want to get to. Right. So it's admirable that you go into that every single time, because most of the times when I'm acting, all the best times I'm acting, I'm completely just in the zone and whatever.
Yeah.
But realistically, a lot of the times I'm like out of the side of my eyes, I'm like, oh shit, what's this person in the audience has a weird hat on, or it's like, oh god, I know that guy from class or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of the reasons, and I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but I struggle to memorize lines word for word verbatim. And that gets me in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that about myself. I'm not good at it. But the reason that it's hard for me is I don't have an internal monologue. My brain doesn't work that way.
Mine either.
And so for me to learn lines verbatim, I can't go in the zone, because for me to think of the right word, I've got to like picture the sentence in my head. And if I'm picturing the sentence in my head, I'm not in the zone.
Okay. So that's interesting. So I try to get it verbatim, word for word, and I am always doing that. Okay, so but we both suck at one aspect of acting.
Yeah, I am not good at math. And like, I always, and you know this about me. We've been on stage together.
But you get the point across.
I always know the intention.
You always know the intention, what needs to happen. You know what the other character's reaction is going to be. So you can't, you know you're not going to, like, you may not forget the word for word of it, but you're not going to forget to mention the TV if you're trying to sell a guy a TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because for me as an actor, one of the very first parts of my process, if I'm acting in something, is I try to learn the story. Like, what is the beat by beat breakdown of this story? And if I understand the story, I'm never lost, because I know what's supposed to happen next.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And like, you know,
that's you approach acting like a director. Because directing is so much just like, we're storytelling, and acting, people get they think it's all about character development. Yeah. Which it is. Right. But you're developing a character to act as a role in a story.
I would actually critique that a little bit. Actors are not taught to develop characters for the most part, in my opinion. Actors are taught to create people. And people are great. And people are how we create honest characters. But there is a difference between people and characters, and that is characters are designed to service a narrative. We're not designed to service a narrative as human beings. We're three-dimensional people, and we are telling ourselves our own stories. That is not the function of a character. So
Okay.
I was directing.
Interesting distinction and semantics to call me out on, but anyways.
No, well, it's just like it's a recent sort of philosophical development for me. I was directing a show. I was directing You Can't Take It With You. And the actor who was playing Anthony Kirby. So Anthony Kirby is this New York banker. I cast a very kindly actor to play him. And he is I wouldn't call him a villain, but he is the antagonist of You Can't Take It With You. And for like 2 weeks in rehearsal, he was just too likable. Like the character was too lovable. And even though he was saying the words and the words were vile, he was giving this character too much benefit of the doubt. And eventually I just had to say to the actor, we can't like Mr. Kirby. If we like Mr. Kirby, the show has no legs. He has to be an antagonist.
But he has to be an antagonist. So you're saying he has to be a character. You're directing him that he has to be a character and that he has to, because I think that goes anti your point, or unless I'm just misunderstanding it. But because if you're saying he's developing he's being people, then that is the person he's being. He's being too nice, but that doesn't serve the story
exactly
and the narrative. So the character must be evil, or else we can't tell the story.
And not evil, just like
unlikable.
Yeah, he has to be an old fuddy-duddy.
A villain.
Yeah, he has to be a villain in the prototypical sense to serve the narrative. So like putting Anthony Kirby on stage as a three-dimensional person, giving him 100% the benefit of the doubt, making him a good man who's making mistakes, is a great way to develop a real person, but that person does not serve the narrative being told and You Can't Take It With You. And
so are you saying that actors have to develop a person and then fit that person into a narrative? Because or
what I'm saying is there is a tightrope to walk as an actor.
Yes.
They are too often encouraged to create three-dimensional people, and three-dimensional people are important, and your characters should have three dimensions, but in my opinion, the narrative that you're telling has to come first. You can make up any person you want, but if that person doesn't help you tell the story, why put them on stage?
Yeah, but so you're saying the difference between a person and a character is that a character acts towards that story?
Exactly.
Okay.
Narrative is what's important as a character.
So actors, it's character building. It's not
person building.
But what you're saying is people, that's a fault that actors fall into, is they approach it as people building.
And they're taught to person build. Like
and
how many times
they're like, so your character, what's his religious affiliation, what's his political party, what's are all these things, like what's his favorite soup, all these. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but
three-dimensional.
Yeah, for the most part, it doesn't matter. If it takes you knowing everything about the character you're playing to play them, have at it. It's not for me to judge your process.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, as a director, and like what's important to me is the choices your character makes in the narrative and how your character exists in the narrative. So when I played Ancient Pistol in Henry V,
yes,
I don't know how old Pistol was. I know he's old because he's called Ancient Pistol.
Yeah.
I don't know if he believes in God or not. I don't know how long he and Mistress Quickly have been together. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What matters about Ancient Pistol is the role he serves in the narrative of Henry. And that is, he is a representation of Henry's vagabond days. and he is
So
that's what's important about him. That is what the audience has to glean from him.
So what's important from him is that you play him in this, oh right, matey, or whatever. It's Shakespeare
he's
lines,
got to be riotous. He's got to be jovial. He's got to be, because throughout Henry V, there's this nostalgia that King Henry has for the life he had before he was king and the freedom of it. And so that nostalgia exists in Pistol, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And what is, there's a lot of, and it was kind of the way it was directed. But like there's a lot of talk in Henry V about, Ancient Pistol is a thief. He's only cares for himself. He's a coward. He's only here to war profiteer.
He has non-traditional leader roles, which is a reflection of Henry's past.
Exactly. And one of the things that I do as an actor is I like to go through the script and figure out who's telling the truth about my character and who's lying. And for the most part, in Henry V, in my opinion, people are lying about Ancient Pistol. Like they're saying he's a coward and that he'll never cross the battlefield, but he has an entire scene where he fights a French soldier.
He does.
And wins.
And you almost killed Aloy.
Hey, that was an accident. But they're, the French soldier scene is so important to me because it proves that he is not a coward. He took the fight to the French. And whenever the boy is killed, he is present for the mourning of this boy who travels with the vagabonds throughout the entire play.
He's very present, especially if the guy playing Llewellyn forgets to come out on stage.
I wasn't going to mention it, but
and you have to carry out the dead boy, which was the case when I played Llewellyn.
No, you got it. you got it in one every night. Every night you were there.
I was on stage. Everybody thought I was injured because the last stage was a stage combat scene, and I was like punching this dude and doing these big rolls and stuff, and like we all run off stage like, oh, we're injured. But we're not actually.
Right, of course.
And then I was
except for that one guy who got his nose broken in a performance of that show.
Was that you?
No, it was handsome John. Handsome John.
What a character.
We're gonna call him Handsome John. We're gonna just so.
Oh, we'll call him Handsome John.
Handsome John.
Okay, so I'll edit out Handsome John's real name.
Handsome John, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I get what you're saying about character building. That is essentially how I build my characters.
Yeah.
But you're right in that you're taught that it's all the little things filling in.
Yeah. And what I wish actors were taught more, and what I try to do with my actors, is step outside of your character for a minute and let's look at the bigger story we're trying to tell here. And once we know what the big story is, you can make an informed choice about how your three-dimensional character fits into that.
Yeah. I
think. I'm a very story-based director, though. You know that about me.
You are. But I think you tell the best stories that way.
Well, thank you. I love the act structure. There's so many theater artists that are like, I'm so done with narrative. And I'm like, why?
It's so brilliant.
Why do this if you don't like narrative?
It's perfect. It's like it's built that way for a reason. You're supposed to think you know what's going on at the end of Act 1, but not really, and then something happens that changes everything, and this is what the movie's really about.
Yeah.
And at the end of Act 2, you're like, there's no fucking way this protagonist is gonna make it. He's down and out. His mom's dead. He's gay. Nobody likes that.
His mom's dead and he's gay.
His mom's dead. He's gay. His dad,
nobody likes him.
His dad doesn't like the fact that he's gay, and he killed his mom because of it. And and you're like, this character's fucked. There's no way out of it.
This is the weirdest production of Star Wars I've ever seen.
Yeah, And then Act 3, everything, you're like, oh, he worked it out. Oh, he brought his mom back to life, and she killed the dad.
Yeah,
and she's an ally.
And here's the thing that I believe is, like, human beings are story-making machines. Like, if you put something on stage that doesn't have narrative, I have news for you. Your audience will make up the narrative for themselves.
Yeah,
because we need story. It's how we digest the world.
There are artists that we know and that
we love
that we know and love, and also just there are things that you see. It's very this postmodern way of approaching narrative where it's like you don't have to explain everything. The audience is supposed to be in the dark. They're supposed to be confused,
and that's great
stuff, which is all fine and well. But the audience is still gonna make up their own interpretation of it.
Yeah.
So it helps to have a correct interpretation of what you were going for, because otherwise it looks like you just puked up all this shit on stage and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's okay because the audience doesn't have to know it either.
Yeah, and if
and it's so much better if you create a story that's complex and it's so nuanced that the audience may not understand it, but if you do understand it, there's a correct way to interpret it, then it still gives more heart into it, because audiences, you can't underestimate your audience. They're smarter than you think they are. And so they can put together the fucking themes of it, and they'll put together themes that you didn't even think about, but you wrote without even thinking about. You're like, oh yeah, sure, it's about this relationship and how they have to get over each other or whatever.
Yeah. And one thing that I believe as a director is even if you want the audience to be confused, you have to share your vision and your interpretation with your collaborators. Like,
yes,
it's okay if the audience doesn't know, but if you're my actor, you need to know.
Yes.
You have to know what I want.
Oh my God. And yeah. And there's that thing, and I guess it's a little different for movies than it is theater, because theater is a very wholly based process where you're in the whole thing, and if you're only in one scene for 5 minutes, you're still in the green room for the whole rest of the time, and you're going to rehearsals for months leading up to it or whatever. So you have a much better understanding of the whole process, as opposed to film acting, where you show up, you get cast, you're showing up for one day, you shoot it, you only see 2-3 pages of the story, the ones that you're in, and then you go on your merry way.
Right.
It's a little different. I heard that did you see the Tenet movie?
I did not see Tenet.
It was Christopher Nolan's new movie, who I love. I did not see that movie, but I need to watch it. I've heard it was very confusing.
I've heard it's very Christopher Nolan.
I've heard it's very confusing, very Christopher Nolan. But I heard you can get that movie. You can watch it enough times or figure out where, like, oh, there is a thing.
Right.
I heard that Robert Pattinson, I think he's in it, and apparently he had no clue what was going on for the entirety of filming. But you can do that in film almost.
Yeah. Well, and like one of the things that I think I would really like to do is I think I would like to be a showrunner for a TV show. I think I would be a very good showrunner.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I believe that 5 seasons are exactly how long a show should last. 13 episode seasons, 5 seasons.
And I guess the only difference is if it's a drama, making an hour or 45 minutes, and if it's a comedy, 22-30 minutes.
Yeah, and I think and this is a controversial statement about serialized media, but I believe in having the end in sight. I believe you should know how it begins, in the middle, and the end.
For the whole thing.
Yep.
But isn't it always become a thing where I guess for comedies and sitcoms, you kind of just have to start that show, because sitcoms kind of reset every week,
right? So
you have the benefit of the doubt where you can't change the story too much, but you're growing the characters, and then eventually the characters, it can become more serialized, like The Office or something.
Yeah, well, The Office I think is a prime example of 5-6 season run, whatever, because
where it should have gone 5-6 seasons, because it went like a season or two longer than it needed.
The show should have ended with Michael Scott's exit.
Yes.
Just should have. That should have been the end of The Office. And then you would have had a concrete beginning, middle, and end. You would have had the beginning of the show where you introduce the characters and the conflicts. The midpoint, which is the Michael Scott Paper Company arc.
Yeah.
And then the end is Michael.
Oh,
because in my opinion, Michael Scott is the protagonist of The Office.
Yes, obviously.
Well, the showrunners would disagree with you because they think it's Jim and Pam. They think that they are the co-protagonists of the series.
I just, you can't have a love, romance line be the whole through line, because how do you end that?
Exactly, because once they got married,
then you're like, okay, now you can have a kid, and then maybe you can have another kid, but like,
right?
What,
you can throw in marital troubles, I guess.
Yeah,
but you kept them apart for so long that that's not great.
Yeah, so the ending is either one of them dies or they get divorced.
Yeah, and you don't want that.
Yeah,
and like in my opinion, the story of The Office, like Michael is the first character we meet.
Yes,
we meet Michael first. We figure out who Michael is very quickly, and I think the core theme of The Office is the way that the like American bureaucratic office space deteriorates like our human experience and like isolates people from each other through these corporate roles. And like what is beautiful in The Office about me is Michael Scott is a character who strives human connection and does not know how to reach it. And his catharsis is
his whole thing is that, well, at least I have this position of power where they have to listen to me
and they have to like me
because I'm the world's best boss. I may not be anyone's friend but I'm their boss.
And I think the theme of The Office is best encapsulated in Michael's final line. This is a guy who has deluded himself into believing that his coworkers are his family. And one of his final lines is, at the end of the day, the people you work with aren't your family. They're just your very best friends. And that's the arc that Michael Scott has to like. He is the protagonist of The Office.
It takes him so long to figure that out. People love The Office.
It's a great show.
So this is an interesting thing, and we're a little over an hour here, so
damn,
we'll
have to wrap it up.
We'll wrap up soon, but so the NBC in like the like late 2000s, they had 4 shows in a row that were just killer. To this day, they're 4 of people's favorite shows, and they were, I forget the order that they were in, but The Office was their big one. And then after that was Parks and Rec. And then 30 Rock was on for a little bit. And then Community was real big. So of those 4, I always find it interesting to know people's preference and their favorite one, because it tells you a lot about the person.
It does.
Because 30 Rock is more of an SNL theme. It's less serialized, but there is a larger story.
Right.
But it's more resetting every day to day. And it's directly Tina Fey came from SNL, where she was the head writer, over to 30 Rock, made her own show. So 30 Rock is very much, it's kind of weird, and it's fast paced, and it's hilarious, and it's big characters. Which was very it was, that's very much of the time of the early 2000s when Tina Fey was the head writer on SNL. And that, which was a great cast: Bill Hader, Andy Samberg, all those people, Kristen Wiig. So you have that. There's 30 Rock, which I've been rewatching again recently. It's one of my favorite ones. There's Community, which was more of a sitcom than any of them. It had very little overarching stories. It was the most chaotic to produce because Chevy Chase was a nightmare.
As he always is.
And
also noted story man Dan Harmon.
I love Dan. So Dan Harmon brings something to that show where every episode. Sorry, I have COVID.
Okay.
Every episode is just a little package of a story.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of film parodies in that show.
Mm-hmm. There's a
it
D&D episode.
D&D episode, and it gets much weirder, and it's much more that one's much more of a cartoon than anything. And then there's The Office and Parks and Rec, which are pretty much the same show, but
The Office is about offices, and Parks and Rec is about government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the people who like those shows are much more. Those are very serialized, very story driven.
Yeah.
People who like those are more into that.
I love The Office the most until Michael leaves.
Yeah.
After Michael leaves, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Though,
Will Ferrell coming in at the end.
He's awful.
You don't like him?
No, he's terrible.
I like the
Choose your next words very carefully.
I like that character. I like him coming in and everybody seems more on a surface level, more normal, more like a guy who you would want to have as your boss, more qualified. But as soon as like Michael starts to leave, like, oh God, this guy is coming in. He's way better than me. No one likes me anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's just gonna forget about me. And then as soon as he starts to leave, like he becomes like a stickler. He's like, no, and he's like a boss.
Yeah.
He's like a real boss, and people realize they realize the value that Michael
I get what
had.
you're saying. You like the role he plays in relation to Michael's narrative.
Yeah, I like the role he plays in the story.
Yeah.
His character itself, of all the ones that Will Ferrell has played, is probably among my least favorite.
I think D'Angelo Vickers is just too Will Ferrell. Like, he's just so Will Ferrell. Like, if they had gotten somebody...
I thought it was weird because the character was not... It didn't seem like the normal character Will Ferrell played.
Yeah.
Because he was a very buttoned-down, straight, normal guy with... his thing was that he was fat and he lost weight.
Yeah.
And so that was like his thing. And he was a bit weird, but he was like normal.
Yeah.
And I like it when Will Ferrell plays a normal guy. Will Ferrell is much more of a character that plays a character like Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Who's just fundamentally just broken. There's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
But he's craving attention and all that. He doesn't learn from lessons.
Have I ever told you that the funniest movie I've ever seen is Anchorman 2?
That's such a good movie. It's such a good...
Dude, the RV scene when the RV flips because nobody's driving. And like there's no dialogue. It's just a fucking bowling ball and a fucking hot bowl of soup.
That movie...
That's the funniest fucking scene in the world.
Those movies are perfect examples of a narrative that is nothing but just joke after joke after joke. Because that scene is nothing. That whole scene before it flips, it's nothing but them like he's like polishing a bowling ball, and the other guy's like boiling water. so like when it flips, the water boils out of. They gets the bowling ball. I think one of them is like he's about to cook lobsters, so there's lobsters in the air.
And they're all talking very normally. And then at some point in the conversation, they're like, wait, if you're here, who's driving? And then you just fucking RV flip. And nothing comes of it. It's just passive.
Oh, yeah. And
with no consequence.
Those are some of my favorite things in movies. And that's stuff that like the Lonely Island do a lot. You ever seen the movie Hot Rod?
I've not.
Oh my God. There's this scene where they're like, it's right before the climax. They're walking out of their house and they're like marching to like the final big jump. About a stunt man. He's like, and all of a sudden, and like the song is playing and all the townsmen join them.
Yeah.
And everybody's like singing together. They're going, we're not gonna live in silence. We're not gonna live with fear. And it's like this whole march, and then it just turns into this giant riot. And it's a mob, and people are breaking into storefronts, and SWAT teams coming down the street, and just tear gas all over the place, and they just run away with it. Like, that was weird, man. What was that? And they're like, anyways.
Anyway,
Yeah, and the guy's one dude's just holding a TV that he stole.
my favorite scene like that is in Blazing Saddles at the end. Whenever
Love
like
that movie.
whenever they go into the like film set and they're like going into where different movies are being shot from the Old West.
Oh, I love it.
It's so funny. God, Blazing Saddles is good.
Movies that just break the fourth wall and say, "Hey, we don't care. We know that you came to understand the reality as one thing in this story.
Yeah.
But here's a completely out of another thing."
Have you ever seen The Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky?
No, is that the guy that made The Revenant?
No, Jodorowsky. He's a card. He one of the things he said is he was a big director back in the 70s, and like even in interviews today, he's like, on the set of The Holy Mountain, I had sex with every actress in the film. You know, it was like one of those kind of movies. But it's not a comedy. It's kind of sort of a very surrealist film. But like, I highly recommend you watch, if you like good fourth wall breaks, watch The Holy Mountain. It's wild.
Big fans.
Yeah. Well,
big fans of fourth wall breaks and
characters.
And guess what, audience?
This is it.
This is it. Now we're talking to you. Now we're breaking our fourth wall.
Hello, audience.
Hello, audience.
You can't hide from me.
We'll find you. Coming through these speakers.
Wait a second, Evan.
What?
If I'm here on this microphone, and you're there on that microphone, then who's doing the recording?
Who's recording the podcast? We'll end it like that.